ASEAN agenda should support this
First of all, I have to say that EU has long-term relationship with Central Asian countries. Actually, we have this year and last year, we have celebrated 30th anniversary of our diplomatic relationship with all countries of Central Asia. We have been working with Central Asia throughout these 30 years actively, but you are right that recently we have increased the level of our engagement. 2019, the EU approved a new EU Central Asia strategy towards the region. And it's actually a second strategy. So we renewed the strategy and the priorities we have for the region. And now, of course, in the current geopolitical situation where we have a new regime in Kabul, we have new kind of security threats for Central Asia. We have also the war in Ukraine, which have an impact in the region. The Central Asian regions also are willing to increase the cooperation and partnership with European Union. So what we have done is that on the top of our framework for cooperation, which has mainly been on ministerial level, now we have upgraded the level to presidential level. So, as you mentioned, Cholponata was already the second meeting on leaders level, and we are going to develop that further. It is important to increase our dialogue in this sector also, because as you know, I mean, the decisions are taken on presidential level. The same applies to the European Union. And with these meetings, of course, the European Union, first of all, wants to show the political engagement in Central Asia, our willingness to partner, our willingness to also to answer to the requests from the Central Asia to cooperate closer. So this is part of a long-term development and partnership. And I'm very happy to see this is upgraded now to the highest level of our partnership. The Central Asian region, and especially the three of Central Asian countries, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan, they border with Afghanistan. So throughout the history, Central Asians have lived in the same neighborhood as neighbors with Afghans, with the Afghan people. Of course, the regime changed a lot. It changed the plans. The Central Asian countries have had a long-term dream and plan to link with oceans, to link southwards, and to build connectivity with Indian Ocean, with throughout the ports and through Afghanistan, through Iran. Of course, the regime change in August 21 shook the plans a bit, you know, in the current situation. The question is, of course, to what extent these projects, which are still very valid, I mean, the energy pipeline, the Kasa 1000 from Tajikistan, the plans of Uzbekistan to build the railway to Peshawar from Mazar-i-Sharif, or the gas pipeline TAPI, which Turkmen leadership, the Turkmen government has been building through Afghanistan, Pakistan to India, and other plans, railways through to Iranian ports. To what extent this can be now realized, this is one thing. And the plans have been delayed a bit. Financing has to be found for these projects in current situation. And of course, I think the main issue is that to what extent the investment and also the connections would be safe throughout the current Afghanistan. The Central Asian countries, of course, the regime changed a lot. The Central Asians are part of the international community, trying to find a way to solve the challenges with the Taliban regime, especially demanding an inclusive government, fighting for the rights of women and girls, humanitarian aid in the country. The humanitarian situation is very bad, and Central Asian countries are doing a lot. They are trying to develop ways to dialogue, to tie the Taliban regime to certain commitments. Actually, they've been taken. So there is a lot. The European Union is having a dialogue with the Central Asian countries. We are having a dialogue with the special envoys and representatives of Central Asian countries with the European Union. It's myself and my colleague, Special Envoy Thomas Nicholson, chairing this dialogue, and we find it very useful because if anyone, the Central Asians know their neighbor. They have more than 2,000 kilometers of common border, common challenges. It's a region with shared water reservoirs. River Amu Darya is actually as a border river between the countries and Afghanistan. Big challenges, water sharing, big challenges for climate change, but also the security challenges stemming from Afghanistan, the terrorist groups, the Al-Qaeda related groups posing threats also to Central Asian countries. Question about drug trafficking, arms trafficking, all that. So there are big issues we try to discuss and also find solutions to. But the Central Asian states, all of them are actually playing a big role here. Also, historically, throughout different regimes in Kabul, but especially now with the challenging situation inside the country and in its neighborhood. Let me start by saying that Central Asia has been, of course, on a global map for a long time with its difficulties in the water sector. We've long seen the melting glaciers on Pamir, on Himalayas further on. And of course, the problems with water are well known. I must praise the role of Tajikistan and the countries of Central Asia, especially Tajikistan in this regard. I mean, Tajikistan has been very actively working within the UN, creating premises and global conferences for water sector. We actually celebrated in March a global water conference in UN in New York, and it was co-hosted by Tajikistan and the Netherlands. So the countries are trying to play a role on global level. The EU is also paying attention to the water sector in Central Asia, very much so. We have a lot of programs actually in water sector. But I want to say that also in Central Asia, of course, the well-known problems with the challenges of the Aral Sea, the disappearing, vanishing Aral Sea, with the rivers, with melting glaciers, with water management, water resources. Actually, there is enough water in Central Asia for the time being, at least, according to estimations. But the problem is that it's distributed unevenly. Water management problems, which actually are still coming from the Soviet past. I mean, the infrastructure is poor. It has not been renewed. All those aspects we have to take into consideration. The Central Asian countries themselves are also trying to improve their regional cooperation in green transition, water sector, and climate change, which is part of this big dialogue about climate change having a big impact, especially on Central Asia. And that is, of course, diminishing and challenging the water resources for the region. So the EU has tried to be helpful. We are financing both regional and bilateral projects on water management, water distribution, drinking water, and there are several projects which we have been developing throughout these years. The recent initiative is called Team Europe Initiative, where we combine all EU knowledge, EU institutions, member states, our business community and financial institutions. We call them Team Europe initiatives. And this was launched some months ago, and it's about energy, climate, and water. And we want to kind of coordinate all what we do to be sure that we are not doing overlapping projects. So we try to have a water sector in focus with this project also. And actually it's trying to improve the regional management of water, resourcing it, developing transboundary solutions between the countries, because there are a lot. I mean, water is also related to energy. We have hydro energy in Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan. This is all interlinked. So the European Union is trying to offer expertise, also technology, how to better manage the scarce resources in the future, to distribute them evenly, and to make sure that there is water for everybody in all Central Asian countries and in the region as a whole.